Thank you, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Have we done this before, Jared? Because your handle's so familiar. And I usually
Yes.
remember everything. I'm like an elephant.
Yeah, we did. It's been probably about a year or so, but we did have a little interview a while back.
Okay. Well, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm a fellow Californian. I know you're just south of me, so I'm just Southern California.
Surf's up, dude.
That's
So
okay.
refresh my memory. I know you've been in the industry for about 13 years, Jared. Can you tell me and our community a little bit about how it was for you in the beginning, and did you have influences or mentors? How did you find your way early on in your journey, and what was the catalyst for you getting involved in the industry?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So when I got started trading, anybody that's kind of been at it as long as I have knows that currency trading in particular was pretty unknown. A lot of people didn't know much about it. Most of the people I talked to about it asked if what I was doing was legal. That was a pretty common response I got. But I just got really interested in it. I was always interested in trading and currencies and forex. That was kind of the newest, greatest thing in the early 2000s. It
Yeah.
seemed
Well,
really
it's like
cutting
the
edge
Wild
and really
Wild
exciting.
West. Wasn't it like the Wild Wild West? Everyone was a market maker.
Yeah.
Spreads varied. There wasn't a lot of regulation because it was a cash market. And I remember when I had my own IB, people talking about pips, and I go, "Well, what's that?" So I remember that.
Yeah.
Amazing transformation in a decade and a half, huh?
Yeah, they have really, it's really turned around, and and sadly, for Forex for a little while in there, kind of in the mid 2000s, it kind of seemed like if you were a currency trader, that wasn't like real trading. You should be trading stocks or something, because it got so saturated with just craziness that it became almost unruly. And fortunately, that passed by pretty quickly, and now everybody is interested in currency trading, and everybody knows what it is, and it's awesome. But it was definitely a wild ride for me. When I got started, one of the things we did was we traded news a lot, and me and a couple of partners made ridiculous amounts of money, because if you remember back in the day, non-farm payroll would move 300 pips every time, and we would just cash in on that like crazy, and it was fantastic. So I did a little bit of everything in the beginning: news trading and technical analysis and long term and short term, and kind of had to find my way, had to find out what worked best for me, and what caused the.
Ever blow up an account, Jared?
Oh yeah, 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 for sure.
Okay.
It
Sorry, I
was,
didn't want to, I didn't want to bring you back to those psychic wounds, but
uh, the, the
I have several times.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure a lot of traders. I feel like that's like the passage of entry, right? Is if you lose enough money that you have to lay on the floor in the fetal position, drooling a little bit, wondering what just happened, then you're on the right track. You're making progress.
So glad you got off the floor, Jared. You
Oh,
don't
I
lose
did.
till you quit, right?
That's right.
I have a saying that when people go, well, I'm going to teach you the secret to trading, the secret to FX trading, that the secret is there is no secret. It's just hard work and persistence.
That is 100% true. That is so true. And it's become really apparent to me. I have a trade group, and I've been working with a lot of people for some of them for a couple of years, and I remember thinking to myself, good grief, what is the deal here? And then everyone kind of started turning corners in the last while, and people are just making crazy money and just quitting their jobs and going full-time trading. And it was just a reminder to me of exactly what you said, of you just have to stick with it and just do it every day, and you'll figure it out. And that's kind of, you just have to do it. You just got to show up and put in the time, and the rest will be details.
Okay, we're getting a little turn in the euro. You brought up people quitting their day jobs, so that kind of light bulb goes off for me because I get this question a lot. They say, Dale, um, how much money do I need to trade for a living? And people will throw out a number like 10K. can I trade for a living with 10K? And my response is yes, if you want to live beneath an underpass. So when people, especially here in California, right, Jared? I mean,
oh,
even if you're doing you
10K.
do 100% a year, it's not enough except if you're in a pub tent.
Yeah, 10K gets me at least halfway through the month in Southern California. So
You
I'm
know,
that's, but yeah, it's true. It's definitely, there's always those factors to take into account. How expensive is your life, and probably the biggest thing that I always tell people is trade live money with your full-time job and with everything, and see how much you consistently make over a 3 or 4 or 5 month period, and kind of lean towards that. If you find yourself consistently doing awesome, or consistently doing 1% a month, or consistently, it's all kind of, that's the other thing I've seen is everybody is so different. I have people in my trade group that'll make 2,000 and 3,000 pips a month, and then people that'll make 100 pips a month, and so it really just
you
kind
know.
of varies on the individual.
And people that look, even the best have drawdowns. So if you're completely relying upon your trading income, that's a lot of pressure
It is.
because
It
you're not
is.
going to make money every month.
That's right. Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
was talking about this yesterday, Jared. You ever find yourself saying, "I need to find a trade"?
Yes, yeah, I do. I do. I have definitely had that. It's been 2 or 3 days since I found a good one. What's something I can get into? And I immediately have to talk myself out of that when I have that thought in my head, because
Yeah,
it usually doesn't end well if I'm looking for a trade.
right. The good ones just smack you in the face. You don't have to look for it.
Yeah.
Do you? So I
Wow.
use Tom Petty's saying the waiting is the hardest part.
that,
Almost.
that is so true. And with me, in my trade group, people oftentimes expect me to produce something, and I've got to tell somebody to get into something, and I've got to get into something, and talking everybody through the quiet days, and sometimes I
I
just can't get
remember
a
that.
brief. Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember that when I've done what you've done, and I remember the pressure of feeling like I have to have ideas to keep people entertained. Let me mentor you. Say to your group, I'd rather bore you than fabricate a trade for you to lose money with.
Oh, I definitely do. People, the one thing that I get quite often from my trade group is everyone says, well, at least we learned a lot of patience. Because
Yeah, because
if
if you
nothing
want
else,
entertainment, you go to a movie.
exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
so I'd be interested in taking a look at your setup. Have you ever used Hangout before? You scroll up to the upper left-hand corner. There's a green box with a white arrow,
Yeah.
and if you click that, you could screen share because I think the euro has turned at least short term today. We had a nice little three drive to a bottom formation there, and interested in what you're thinking in these markets. We started off with a historic decline in the S&Ps, the worst start in stock market history. Dollar really didn't get clipped that bad during that risk-off phase. And interested in your views and also what you look for and what you teach and towards the end of the interview. So after you click that, there we go. All right, so we're looking. You had a falling wedge as well. So
Yes. Yes. And
talk to me about the euro.
yeah, I love the euro. It's funny, the euro gets a bad rap sometimes. Like, there's so much other stuff to trade, and I love trading the euro dollar. I think it's great. Sometimes it gets a little slow, and I have to move on to other currency pairs. But I have been watching the euro closely, and I think there's some really significant things happening. So this little falling wedge right here was, and it sounds like it was yours as well, a little bit of a short-term trigger, to kind of get in and maybe get long on this thing. But what I was looking at specifically on the euro dollar as well was, I don't know if I have these drawn on this chart. So I liked this little trend line, this crazy long-term trend line that we have on this weekly chart. If we go from those highs all the way back there and just kind of hit those tops on the way down, I'm a huge
Yeah.
fan of these big breakouts retesting trend lines. And so I was looking for this all along to kind of happen, to have this just pull back and retest that trend line. And I put in just one more little guy right here.
So that's around 108.
So the retest that yeah, it can be anywhere in kind of the 109, maybe a little bit below. But I was looking specifically for about 109.50 to get hit, and you saw I hit about 109.57 this morning. And this is a pretty decent little trend line right here. This is a nice little support zone. So I was looking for it to turn at this trend line, and maybe not make it all the way back to the big weekly guy here. For me, a big turning point on euro would be like 10800. If it breaks below 10800, then I'm bearish all the way to parity at least. But it's got to get.
You know, it's interesting. It's interesting you bring up parity because someone in the community, Sinatra, told us that all the banks have raised their parity or sub-parity targets back up to 105. So now that the banks are giving up on parity or sub-parity, now makes me think it's going to happen.
It's true. You know, my favorite bank is Goldman Sachs. Whatever they say something is going to happen, I know if I do the opposite that I'm probably going to get a free vacation out of it because they just it's funny. You know, it's almost like they give out trade calls and they do the opposite themselves because because they are some of their stuff's pretty crazy, but yeah, I think if we start getting below that 10800, we're going to head into that parity and possibly below. But as long as that holds, I want to be a buyer. I want to be a buyer above 10800 and even specifically around 10950. And I have this crazy. Here's a crazy thing that I look at, and it may be nothing and it may be something, but I've traded with it a lot over the years, and it's a simple Fibonacci play that I do, and it's just simply whenever the market crosses the 23% fib, which is this guy right here on the euro dollar in this big move. Whenever it crosses that 23, it seems like about 90% of the time it hits that 38. And it doesn't seem like there's that same correlation with the 38 to the 50 or the 50 to the 61 or anything like that. But it seems like 23 to 38 just hits almost every time. And so we had some nice crossings back here several times of the 23% fib, and it hasn't made a new low. And so I'm actually, if the euro dollar can hold, if it doesn't get below 108, if it gets below 108, I'm looking for a double bottom and a break of that 105, 104 area. But if it stays above that 108, I think we could head as high as 116 and even 118 on euro dollar.
Okay. All right, yeah, so they're your 38% retrace level. So that would be, even 50%, people would still call it a bear market rally, wouldn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Looks like we have to clean out some of the parity bears, and the banks are throwing in the towel. So up there, it's going to be pretty interesting. So interested in what else you're following? That was a great pearl that you noticed. Does that happen on all pairs? That if we get past the 23%, normally goes to 38, or is that specific to the euro that you've noticed?
It seems to be pretty consistent across the board. The more volatile ones, some of the exotics are a little more tricky to trade this type of a setup. But I like the steadier, like a euro dollar or Aussie dollar. Those tend to really run just nice and steady on this type of setup. But it works fairly well on a lot of pairs. I use it on a pretty regular basis.
Okay.
So yeah, euro dollar looks interesting. We have I have taken some pretty incredible trades on pound everything lately.
Okay. Yeah, it's really it's almost turned into a petrocurrency for the first time in decades. So yeah, interesting. I remember being positive euro pound, and I thought it was going to be because of euro strength, and it was all about pound weakness.
Yep.
So
yep.
What do you see in here? Some people have targets down around 133, 135. A lot of people want to trade it down here and bottom pick it. EG is telling me to stay with the strength, and that's the euro. What are you seeing in the pound?
So the
Oh, okay,
pound
great.
for
Yeah.
the let me sorry, I got a bunch of stuff on here. The pound for me here. I was just talking about this morning with my trade group, and the pound. I have that no real good reason to even believe other than uh, currency pairs have this incredible ability, right, to stay within ranges. Now, if the UK leaves the eurozone, does all that stuff, that's going to put some unpredictable measures in there. But the vote's several months out. We don't know what's going to happen in the meantime. So what I'm looking for on pound dollar is I think we could be getting near some bottom activity. You know, just the fact that this pound dollar has these lows. You know, our 2008 lows were about 130,
Three.
135.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
did we get a little? Yeah, yeah. So we got and we have those lows of more years back that were even lower. So it seems like kind of that mid 130s is an interesting spot, and so I'm kind of watching out to see if we're going to get some sort of. I love price patterns and chart patterns and so on, and I'm kind of looking to see if this could be an early stage inverse head and shoulders pattern, possibly. And I'm looking for this to get into the mid 130s. I think 135, 134 is not going to be a surprise at all if it hits that. But I personally would
So
be
you
very
think
surprised if.
you think that down there that'll be the head of a Head and Shoulders bottom, and the neckline would be where? Up around
So
158,
so more like I'm looking on the kind of a
46.
yeah, looking a little more short term, like on this daily chart. So probably about 146 could be our neckline area.
Okay.
And one thing that I like to do with head and shoulders patterns, I think, especially on larger time frames, head and shoulders patterns it's so tough to enter at the break of a neckline because the chopping
Yes.
around and the bumping around is 100 or 200 pips, and most people get stopped out in that process. And so what I try to do on head and shoulders patterns is always kind of anticipate it a little bit and trade the falling wedge or the rising wedge, which is right before the last shoulder happens. And so I'm going to be looking for something, along those lines on this pound dollar to happen. Some sort of falling wedge that we can get in here and start buying that breakout. That could be, the head part and could be some bottoming out there.
Yeah, it looks
So.
like we have the second drive here. Maybe we get a bounce from here and get one more shot down towards those lower targets. But are
Yep.
you're showing? Do you use any kind? Do you work with divergences at all, or is it pretty much all price action for you?
I'm a little bit on divergence. I'm a big price action trader. I have an indicator that I use that I kind of that I did make, and it's something that kind of measures distance between this right here is the 200 moving average, exponential moving average, and I love this on
Yeah.
larger time frames. So my indicator just kind of looks at historic movements away from the moving average. And it's a good kind of gauge of overbought and oversold. And when we start exceeding historic levels and distances from the moving average, I've found to be really good times to get in on these price pattern reversals, and so I'm kind of waiting for that to play out just a little bit more. And it's not really surprisingly, the pound dollar, according to my indicator, which has been super reliable, is not super oversold yet, which is weird. You'd think the pound dollar would be incredibly oversold, but it doesn't look like it's totally oversold yet. We might get that one more good big push down there.
Okay, Jared. Your handle is day trades.
Day
Day
traders
trades.
FX.
So are you mainly teaching people to day trade? Sounds like you have a little bit more of a swing, or even at times a position trade mentality. It's what because you're looking at dailies, and I don't know why you would look at a daily if you were just going to be flat every day.
Yeah, so what we do, what I do is, I kind of adopted the day traders mentality early on, and I've kind of kept it. But I do a lot. I do a lot of day trading, and I do a lot of swing trading as well. but I kind of my specialty is finding pairs that can move far fast. So it's not uncommon. For example, at the beginning of the week, in my trade group and in my own trading account, we made 500 pips on the pound New Zealand in several hours, kind of a thing. So it was a day trade, but it was a big trade, right?
Wow.
And so I try to look for those. I don't love to stay in trades for weeks and weeks or months. But I like to be in and out in a day or two or three. So I'm kind of a little bit of a I call myself the medium-term trader, but I definitely look for the 30 and 40 pip trades, but I also can regularly find 3 and 4 and 500 pip trades that can move pretty quick as well.
Okay, so do you cover or pay attention to any outside markets when you're trading FX, or is that enough for you, just following all the different pairs?
No, definitely. I always keep an eye on the metals. I'm always watching gold and silver. I feel like that's got a pretty good correlation with some of the pairs. I always watch oil, the Dow, S&P, and I'll keep an eye on the VIX as well. Whenever the VIX spikes, usually we get some good dollar activity, and so I'm usually watching the VIX.
What do you make out of the fact that the VIX, when we were at 1810 a few weeks ago, before this recent sell-off in the S&Ps, just was not indicating stress or fear, and to me that was kind of a tell that the market was going to rally because the VIX was underperforming the price damage. What are your thoughts on, is the VIX broken, or is it telling us something?
That is a good question, and it's actually funny. So I think the VIX and I think a couple of other markets that I use for correlation, just like the S&P, for example, and gold, for example, the correlation to the U.S. dollar that they have has been very off the last 6 months, I would say, 6 or 8 months. But especially, the last couple of months, we've seen correlations that are normally very reliable, with the VIX and with the U.S. equities. Just totally off. And gold has been, gold is usually a pretty good one, right? We see gold and the dollar, very tightly correlated, and they've just been going total crazy directions to each other, and with no real rhyme or reason to it. And so
the Aussie also, I kind of correlate Aussie with gold, and the Aussie is way underperformed. It's been, had an upward bias, but way underperformed the gold.
Yeah. It's been really interesting, and that I honestly don't know what to make out of all of that. I kind of revert to my good old technical analysis. Is that at that point when there's just such a who knows what's going on kind of a thing. And
so, Jared, if you could pass on one lesson that you've learned in the last 13 years, and I know the standard answer is risk management, what's the most important lesson that you pass on to your mentees and could pass on to us in trading that helped you become proficient and a more effective trader? What would you say would be the most important thing for people to keep in mind when they fire up their platforms?
So risk management, of course, is a huge one, and that's really, really huge. But another one for me was kind of how we talked earlier, just showing up. I remember going through several stages in my trading where I thought, early on, where I thought, what, everything I learned, I just have no idea what I'm doing. I just have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm the kind of person that I just stick to stuff no matter what. And sticking to trading, I just kept doing it, and the more I did it, the more it all kind of came together. And that's what that's what I've seen in my trade group is those that just hang in there always come out successful. And it might take a year, it might take 5 years, but just staying with it, being careful in the process, but literally just showing up every day will get you as close to a guaranteed success as you can get. Just doing it over and over and over again, and you'll figure out the things you need to do better and the things that you're good at and things that you're bad at in that process.
Okay, I heard this. It's not mine, but I like it. To be there for the good times, you have to be there all the time. What do you
That
think?
that is so great. I'm going to share that and I'll credit the source. That is totally fantastic.
Okay, so now would be a good time to maybe talk about your business model or your website and how people could follow you, possibly get involved with you, Jared.
Yes, yes. So the website
This is your
is
commercial.
here's my plug. Here it is.
All right.
So daytradersfx.com is my website. Daytradersfx.com, and basically what I do is everything I've been talking about. We have a live trade group and we meet every day, and we only try to take the best trades we can find. And really more than anything is, I don't know, I mean, I feel like I'm coming across a little serious here, but we just have fun together. We're like a big family and we have a good time, and everyone is there to learn and progress and kind of move forward together. And so it's a daily trading group where we learn and trade and share and do everything together on a daily basis, and it's the most fun I have every day besides surfing.
Okay, so what's the monthly subscription price for that?
So we have two levels, $37 and $79 a month. $79 a month gets you all the live
Very
trading
reasonable.
sessions every single day, and $37 just gets you a bunch of trade calls sent to your cell phone with some charts and some details attached on why we're doing it, and still gets you a lot of good information.
Jared, thanks so much for sharing your views. I learned some things from you today. Next time I see the euro take out 23% retraces, I'm going to be looking for 38. That was a pearl, and appreciate you
Excellent.
taking the time out of a pretty busy day in FX to share your views and edify our community. I wish you and uh, your your people in your trading room that pips rain down on you the rest of the year, and much success. And thank you again, my trading warrior brother, Jared Johnson, at daytradingfx.com.
Day, day,
Daytradersfx.com. And that's
day
also your
trades.
Twitter handle,
Yep, absolutely.
at daytradersfx. Twitter
Day
handle.
trade, Day Traders FX. Here's just a quick one for anybody just going out. There's the website, Day Traders FX. There it is.
Thank you so much, buddy. Good
Thanks,
hunting.
thanks so much, Dell. Great speaking with you. Nice, always nice to chat with you.
All right, partner.
All right, take
Jared
care. Have a good
Johnson.
one.
Everyone thank Jared for his presentation today. And we
Thanks.
have another webinar on deck. Kevin, did you get the name of the site? You got it? Daytradersfx.com. Pretty easy.
Perfect,
Good.
perfect. Thanks so
Okay,
much for
Jared.
having me, guys.
All right, bud.